Hello and welcome to Straight Shooting with Dan and Joseph. Tune into this podcast to get the latest news on competitive shooting events and to learn how to become a better shooter. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and be sure to recommend it to all of your shooting friends. Hello, welcome to episode 17. I'm Dan Killo along with Joseph Stecker, and we got back special guest Blake Lyles from 415 Training. Appreciate Blake coming back over to work with us. Today's show, we've got updates from around the area, several area results from USPSA that Joseph and Blake are going to go over, and updates on ARA. We just released a few new rules coming into effect next year over factory class. Going to talk briefly about those. And then precision shots, we're going to talk about indoor 22 bench rest. Not as easy as it looks. Go over a few of those, and then we're going to finish off with bleeding off with Joseph as Blake and Joseph go over their Area 4 championships that they just got back from in Arkansas. So good show today. Let's get right into it. All right, area updates, USPSA. What you got?
So there's been a bunch of major matches here lately, and so I'm just going to run through, since there were so many, I'm just going to run through the top 5, and I've got some. Most of them are open and PCC guys. Some of them are some carry optics guys coming in for the surprise. But Area 6, so in the overall, you had Christian Seiler. He was first. Lesger Murdoch was second. Tom Castro was third. Casey Eusebio was fourth. And Max Michelle was fifth. And that's your top 5. And so 3 out of those 5 were all shooting open. And so for the open division, you've got Christian first, Lesger second, and then Casey in third. Tom Castro was first in PCC, and Max Michelle obviously won the carry optics. That was your top 5 there. And for Area 4, which is where we just came back from, your overall was JJ Rakaza was first, Shane Coley was second, and Shane is shooting limited. So that's
and a Glock.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And Lena Mikulik was third. She's shooting PCC. She also got first in that division. Brixie Nelson, who's like 17.
No, last year's a junior.
Yeah, this is last year as a junior. He was fourth overall and also second in open behind JJ.
Where's he from?
Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri. He's freaking stupid fast.
Yeah, he is.
Like crazy fast. And then Anthony Bruno, who shoots for Team Infinity, was fifth overall and number 3 in open.
That was at Area 4. Anthony was down in Arkansas?
Yeah, so he actually flew in, shot that match on Friday. He shot with us Friday, and then flew out to shoot like another major the very next day.
It's like a New York upstate major or something like that.
It was
because he's NYPD.
Whatever match they run, he helps run a match up there.
Oh yes, yeah.
And that was like literally the next day.
Cool.
And
super nice guy. I've visited with him several times.
Mm-hmm.
I have too, and really, he's a good guy. Like him.
But at Area 4, Blake actually won.
Area 4 Open Division champion.
Yeah, he was
cool.
the Open Division.
Congratulations.
Champion. And I was second. Class. Just a little bit of controversy there, but it's whatever.
It's a fickle sport.
Yeah.
It's a fickle sport.
And at Area 7, your overall.
Well, still, though, that's your best finish at an area match, right?
That's a respectable finish.
I don't really care about the finish because that was my first match where I didn't shoot any mics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is all. That's what I told you on our last episode is that's all I wanted to do. Which I basically did that.
So you just go real slow?
I had 2 no-shoots. But those aren't misses.
Yeah.
That's
because I nailed them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But no mics. It was in the no shoot cover, so
I got you.
No mics, but 2 no shoots. But I was also if you looked
the next one is no mics and
no mics, no penalties would be the
penalty,
next one, which is
no shoots. You say is that proper to say that? No shoots.
No penalties.
No shoots.
Yeah, no shoots. Which I don't know.
No penalties.
Yeah,
there you go.
Which is hard to do.
Yeah, that's the only thing that saved me is I went clean. I had no penalties.
So you had no penalties.
No penalties whatsoever. I called 2 misses. I lucked out. Very first stage, round number 3, I threw off of a target. I saw it. I kept moving on through my plan, and before I left that position, I turned around and made it up.
Yeah.
And I called a miss on way back on like stage 6 or 7. I called a miss, and I made it up. I got one reshoot, the one where you had to step in. Actually, the same stage where you had to step in, hit the foot stomp.
Yep.
Open up the max trap.
Mm-hmm.
The very far target down there. I had a mic on it, and I didn't call it, but someone didn't tape a target, so I got a reshoot. And then on the reshoot, I called a miss, but I made it up again on the bleed off.
And even so, what I'm more happy about, other than the no misses, was the 2 no shoots that I had. I didn't waste any time on them because I saw them, and so I didn't really lose anything. I got the penalties, but I didn't lose the points on them.
Down 10 instead of 15.
Yeah, and so at area 7, your overall is Brian James was your number 1. Max Michelle was number 2. Anthony Bruno was top 3 at that match as well. He was 3rd. Tyler Weatherwax, I think is how you say that. He was 4th. And then Michael Pan was 5th. And Max was the only guy not shooting open there, so he obviously won the open division. But the order on this is what I was talking to you about earlier.
He won the carry ops.
Yeah, so he destroyed the carry optics division. But in the open class, and I was talking to Blake about this earlier, because you get weird situations like this. So that's your top 5 on the overall. 4 out of those 5 are shooting open, and the order gets flipped. And so Brian was number 1 in open. Anthony Bruno was 2nd. Michael Pan was 3rd, and Tyler was 4th. But in the overall results, they're flipped. So the guy who actually was higher in the division was lower in the overall, which is very confusing. But that's what Blake was telling me, is since basically everybody who's not first is a percentage of their performance. Like whoever the top guy is, since your placement in the overall is based off of your performance versus their performance, you get these weird like micro percentage differences, because even though they were like 3rd and 4th in the division, in the overall they're flipped. They're 4th and 5th because of like Blake was saying, maybe some guy like tanked a stage, or another guy like made up a bunch of points on that stage, and so that comes in your percentage in the overall, but not necessarily the division, which it's super confusing to think about. Okay. But there was another major match just this past weekend, and that was the Georgia State match, and the overall for that was Tom Castro was number 1. He's shooting PCC, which he also won. William Drummond was 2nd. Aaron Eddins, who I think won Area 3.
Maybe, sure.
I think he won Area 3. He was 3rd. Dexter Bradley was 4th, and then Jacob Taylor was 5th, which I shot with Jacob last time we were in Florida. And like I said, Tom was the only one not shooting open. So same order. William Drummond was 1st open, Aaron was 2nd, Dexter was 3rd, and then Jacob Taylor was 4th. And I'll give a shout out to Luigi, who shoots carry optics. He was 2nd in the division, which is funny because he doesn't care at all. Like he's just a really good shooter.
All right, good deal. Now we're going to move on to some ARA updates. All right, ARA. Looking forward to the next season. Of course, this year was the first year that we've had an factory division, factory rifle, and of course I'm talking about American Rimfire Association 22 bench rest. That's always been unlimited, meaning basically the only rule is it's got to be a 22. You bring it to the line and you can go. Well, we've come up with a factory division first year for it, and started anyway. We knew we were going to have to make some changes because we're trying to keep this for brand new shooters, for somebody who can walk up that has a an average gun and still be able to compete and not just get their tail handed to them by somebody in the unlimited division, essentially, who's got a $5,000 rifle competing against a $250 rifle.
And this is, I only say this because a lot of people have asked me about it recently at some of the matches. There are a lot of similarities between factory and sporter class, but they are not the same thing.
No, factory class is we've seriously limited the number of rifles and what rifles are actually eligible to do, as well as what you can do to the rifle. The main changes that we've got going forward for next season that is not going to be popular with some people, but it's what we need to do to keep this a true factory class, because we've limited some more of the rifles and saying that they're not going to be eligible. Now, this does not actually take into effect until it takes effect this indoor season, which is starting October 1st, and it takes effect for the outdoor season, which starts January 1. So this year is under this year's rules, and these guys are, if you're still shooting a Remington 541, you're perfectly eligible for this particular season. So anyway, some of the main changes, we've added guns that are excluded. Can't use the Marlin Model 2000. You can't use the Browning Model 52, which is essentially Browning had some made that were kind of copies of the Winchester 52, which were really accurate rifles. And we've seriously limited the Remingtons. You cannot use a Model 37, a 40X, a 504, a 513, a 540, or a 541, or any of the variations. So a 541T, a 541XR, whatever, all those. If they have those numbers in them, you cannot use them. None of those rifles are being produced anymore. There's not a tremendous number about there. What we're going after is brand new shooters. Brand new shooters are not going to have these rifles, more than likely. And basically, guys were coming in on our target. And another thing about these guns is most of them, they're just too good for that target that we made. And they were killing it at ARA National. Now, I don't want to disparage anybody at the ARA National Tournament that came in and shot a bunch of 2450s and 2500s, because I'd have done the same thing. That rifle was perfectly legal. Nothing wrong with what they did, but they're just not going to be able to use it next year.
Right.
We're going to have this down, so we'll have scores more 21, 2200. They're going to be more comparable to the unlimited guys,
and we're not like, this isn't anything against anybody shooting these guns. They're just, they're too accurate for that game, because that's, if you're coming in and you're shooting, like this is your first year shooting factory and you've shot 4 2500s, congratulations. you beat it. I mean, move up to limited.
Yeah, it is. I mean, because unlimited too, most guys spend their whole career trying to shoot a 2500, and when they finally get there and get that one, I mean, it's like the accomplishment of a lifetime deal. And then with some of these rifles, they were coming in and shooting 4 in one match.
Yeah.
And
if you're spitting out 2500s left and right, then
it's time to move up.
Time to move up. That's exactly right. Exactly right. So anyway, those are going to be kicking into effect. You can go to AmericanRimFire.com and see all of those rule changes. Not a whole bunch, just a few in there. We kind of got to tweak things from year to year, get it out there a little bit early so that people can make preparations for next year. All right, moving right along to Precision Shots, brought to you by Kello Shooting Sports, your one-stop shop for competition shooting needs. I'm going to visit a little bit about indoor bench rest. We're coming into the indoor season. Indoor season for ARA runs October through March. And our 50-50 is about to get theirs kicked off. I think ABRA is going to have some as well this year. All those, of course, are 22 bench rest competitions. ABRA is Auto Bench Rest Association. Now, they do shoot some bolt guns, but they're primarily designed around semi-automatics. Our 50-50 is very similar to ARA. It's just a little bit different target, but still a lot of the same equipment. And if you hit the dot in the middle, you got top score.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing. Just hit the dot in the middle. Don't worry about all the other rings. Now, most people look at that and they're like, why in the world do you even do this? I mean, because you're indoors. You're putting a gun on a bench on a rest that you're probably not even going to touch the gun very much. And you're going to line it up and put your scope on that dot, put dot on dot, and pull the trigger.
Plus, you take it inside,
Yeah.
so there's no wind.
There's no wind. There's no.
been. I realize how wrong that is now, but when you say that, it does make sense. Because I said the same thing the first time we went to indoor nationals, or the first time I went with y'all.
Where's the challenge in that?
I was like, man, there's probably going to be a ton of 2500s shot. That is not the case at all.
And there'll be some more in the aggregate. Your average score is higher than outdoors because there is limited. But now it becomes more about how good can you make your gun shoot, because none of them are, to this day, none of them are capable of shooting a 2500 every single time. So to me, it's a lot like drag racing. I mean, you're just constantly working on that car if you're a bracket racer or whatever, trying to make it faster. And that's what we're doing with these guns. You're constantly changing things, whether it's changing the tuner, changing the way you clean, changing ammo, changing triggers, changing the way you squeeze the trigger, changing infinite possibilities. How can I truly make this thing more and more accurate? Because remember, we're literally shooting the period at the end of the sentence, 50 yards, and you want to take that dot all the way out. So just remember, everybody's scores are going up. So the competition level is still there, because the guy that shot really good outside is probably got a good gun and is going to shoot pretty good inside. So don't think you're going to just walk in there and kill everybody, because everybody else is going to be better too.
It's the same level of competition. It just goes from this to this. Like everybody moves up.
Everybody moves up. Exactly. Now, some of the things I think maybe might be going on that might help is, one thing you'll run into is mirage. Most of these places, of course, it's in the wintertime. These are big buildings. It's hard to heat them. So it's going to be colder in there. Some of them are going to be downright cold. Most of them are just, you still need a jacket, but it's not quite as bad as being outside. But it's definitely going to be cooler than in the summertime. And when you start shooting them, your barrel starts heating up, and you're going to get heat waves coming up off the barrel that when you look down the scope, you're looking right through those heat waves, and you're going to get mirage, and which is going to affect what you're seeing. And so what most everybody does, and what you'll need to do, is get a little battery operated fan that you're going to have on the bench right beside you, and turn that thing, and it doesn't have to blow very much, but just enough to keep the air moved off the barrel, and then that just blows that mirage off so that you can see better. You definitely want to do that, because I really think that's a big part of what's going on with why some of these aren't as accurate as we think they are, is because you're not aiming where you think you're actually aiming. And it's so easy. It doesn't take, I mean, a tenth of an inch movement for you to be a miss. So every little bit counts. And when you're the other thing is, okay, when we score these targets, when we score them electronically, you scan them. That particular program, when it's over, we've got a little hack on it that we can pull up your 25 shot group. So you've got 25 individual bulls. We've got a key in there we can hit, and it'll pull up, and it'll show you all 25 shots right on top of one another, so that you can look at your 25 shot group. And it'll show us the middle of the group. It'll draw crosshairs basically that shows the middle of the group. And not ever once, even on the perfect 2500s, has one been perfectly sighted in. They're always off a little bit. And even with everybody's using eighth minute clicks, it's still too much. You cannot get them. So you're always holding off just a little. I mean, and I'm talking about, you may still have the crosshair on the dot, but you're going to be on the right edge of the dot, or the left edge, or the bottom edge, or the top edge. It's next to impossible to get them perfectly lined up. So, and I think that throws people a little bit. So really work on trying to get that done, because obviously the closer it is. Because actually, there's a couple of targets I've seen that had a group that was small enough to be a 2500 if it had been centered up. But it wasn't centered. It was offset a little bit, enough to give them a 1 or 2 50s to give a 2400 or a 2450.
So 2 rookie questions.
Yep.
How far do you shoot indoors?
Still 50 yards.
Okay. Second question, on like JP rifles, they're real big. Of course, they overbuild their guns. They're real big into putting heat dissipators on the barrels. Do y'all not use heat dissipators on these?
No, but some guys will use what they call a mirage shield, and it basically runs like the full length of the barrel. It's just a tube that you put,
Gotcha.
and so
Dissipates
it
the
makes
heat.
it to where you can't see that. It doesn't do anything to avert it. It just makes it to where it doesn't come up into your vision.
With
Yeah.
it.
So a lot of the centerfire guys use these all the time, and it's basically like your window blinds, the old timey window blinds that had all the little vanes. They take one of those, turn it upside down so that it's kind of U-shaped like this, and they'll Velcro it to the top of the barrel to where the heat comes up and around, and you're not looking through it. Rimfire guys are a little quirky this way. They don't like anything touching their barrel. So a lot of them don't want to do that because it'll change as you're touching that spot. It's going to make that thing, because as it barrel heats up, it's going to flex.
Right. That's why I was wondering if the heat dissipators would.
Well, now, so
For those rifles, it would probably work better
For
on
centerfire, rimfire.
for centerfire,
Just
like
because
especially like action sport
there's.
centerfire, because the difference between like a group like that and a group like that is still doable. Like you can still
Gotcha.
get A's with that easily, but with everything that's either contacting that thing or adding weight to it, you're changing the barrel harmonics, which for that doesn't matter because
Right.
it's not going to be a big enough difference to make you perform bad.
In,
on these
in
rifles,
the action sports,
right?
But in rimfire,
On these, it is. You don't
Really?
want, unless you have it on there purposefully, you don't want anything touching that barrel.
now some of them will put a
rimfire
Yeah.
guys kind of sound particular.
Well, it's just
they're
it
extremely
is
particular.
because the rifles are.
Gotcha.
And some will have basically a really long sunshade. They'll devise different things to attach to where basically the sunshade goes beyond the length of the barrel
Off of the
off
Scope.
off the scope.
Yeah.
So,
It
but
looks like a big long
some
clear toilet paper tube.
yeah, and some of them actually make them out of paper.
Mhm.
Some of them I've seen make them out of a so basically a roll up a paper target and just stick it on there. Some of them I've seen that guys professionally made them and actually put something on where they thread it in. They made them actually out of the little clear containers they ship long fluorescent bulbs in. They made them out of those. They're about the right. They got the ones that were about the right diameter. Put something on them to do that. But one of the things that does is that puts extra weight, even though it's light. It's so far out there. Now you're putting a little flex into the scope. You're putting more pressure on the scope. If you really start thinking about it, and so,
Right.
and these guys, a lot of them think about that. So some of them don't like it. So most of them just get a fan. They get a fan. It blows across.
Call it happy.
It is
exactly.
Keep it simple, shooter.
It
That's
is
right.
very particular
Wow.
And
because like with those JPs, you're throwing stuff on there left and right. Like you've got two scopes, you got a brake on the end of it with a rail and a handguard and all this other stuff. You don't want, unless you want it on there because it's making your rifle more accurate, you don't want anything on there.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
okay, now another thing I think affects these. Most everybody uses a 1 in 16 twist barrel, and that does seem to be what works best for your 60 to 100 degrees outside. Some of them even will do 17 and a half twist, which they work extremely well in the extreme heat. If you're up over 90, those work very well. But if you get down below 60, I think it's pretty well an accepted fact among the rimfire bench rest guys that below 60 degrees, a 17 twist doesn't shoot very good. I think this is one of the things that I want to try. I think I want to try 1 in 15 twist because a lot of times we'll be shooting and it'll be 40 degrees.
Just for indoor?
Yeah, just for indoor. Thinking, well, if 17 works hot,
Less works cold.
15 work cold. I'm kind of simple.
Why 15?
Maybe.
Why not like 14 and a half?
Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Just don't know.
Just don't know. Just need to
shooting
try
in
it.
the dark.
So anyway, something to think about. Another thing to watch that I've seen is most of these, or not most, all of these indoor places are fighting for space, and so the benches are extremely close together. watch the muzzle blast of the guys on either side of you, because I have seen this, which I think that's what it did, but it sure seems like if you shoot right at the same time or really close to where it's bang bang,
One gets pushed off.
the muzzle blast off one will push off the other one. So I typically watch either guy on the side of me, and I try to get in a rhythm to where they're shooting, and then it's just a couple 3 seconds, and then I'll shoot.
It's like bowling.
Yeah, and
You don't roll at the same time.
yeah, I guess that maybe it is, maybe it is, but that's definitely something to watch. But I will say this: a lot of guys theorize, and I think there is some credence to this, that some guns just shoot a little bit better when they've got a little bit of a wind push on them. It has something to do with stabilizing the bullet. Can't totally explain it to you, but they just seems like when you're in dead calm, they don't shoot as well as if they got a light breeze on. I do think that is true. I can't prove it. And I believe if you're shooting one of those guns indoors, then you want to be shooting when everybody else is shooting. So at the very beginning, when everybody's shooting and everybody's blasting down through there and you're going to have somewhat turbulent air, I think those guns shoot better if you'll go ahead and run your target while everybody else is blasting away. If you wind up if your gun shoots really good in the calm and doesn't like that, there are definitely guns like that.
Then the last 10 minutes are
wait until the last 10 minutes, because a lot of guys will be finished and you're not going to have near as much disturbance going on. So the other last thing I'll say is, because it is cooler, do something to keep your ammo warm, not hot, warm, just so that lube on there, that lube does freeze, it does get hard the colder it is. So I usually keep them in my pockets. I'll have my jacket on, I'll keep them in my pocket. Sometimes I'll have hand warmers, I'll have the hand warmers in with the pockets. You'll see some guys get over there, because most of these places are going to have some kind of propane heater or something just for everybody to warm up. They're over there warming their ammo, and that's fine. Just don't overwarm it. Don't want to melt the wax off. But definitely do that, and then always be careful backing up to those furnaces, because pants on fire, pants on fire. and I have seen that more than once.
That's what's I mean, everything that you're talking about, where it's like makes sense in theory, that's Pinterest in a whole.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff makes sense theoretically, but either somebody just hasn't tried it yet, or they do try it and maybe it wasn't like perfect.
Right.
And so it gets written off as, no, that like sounded good but didn't work.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know it didn't work? Like, was it done perfectly to where?
Right. And that, it again too, with the indoor shooting, which I think with testing ammo or shooting groups or anything, don't change what you're doing because of one bad shot. Sometimes you're just going to get a bad shot. And I think a lot of people jump and change because they've had one bad shot. Make sure that bad shot repeats itself. Now, you can go on your siders and shoot those all you want. Hopefully make that bad shot happen on the sider, not on the record. But don't make a whole bunch of changes because you had one bad shot. It might be something else. And it may not be anything you can control.
Yeah.
But anyway,
at the end of the day, it's still rimfire.
Exactly.
And
they're not as accurate as
it's going to
centerfire
do
guns.
whatever it does.
Right.
You're talking about being a knee jerk. That's what I call it's a knee jerk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instant something happens wrong. So I had my guns. The new SVs have got the new breech face, where the extractor is built into the breech face. And there's a little small spring on the backside of that keeps pressure on that extractor. I started having troubles with not feeding, not going fully into battery. I immediately think too much spring tension. So I made this fairly simple fix into that's part of the problem I've had the last 3 months, is the gun just wasn't running like I thought it should run, and it's snowballed. One mag was bad. One mag was bad for whatever reason. Got stepped on, got kicked on, got thrown, got bent, just went out of spec, whatever. That one mag, and that's where it was. And I'm 98% certain that. But I went through. I knee jerked. I fixed everything I could fix.
They wasn't broke.
Besides, yeah, exactly. I broke everything that was fixed.
Yeah.
And then literally the day before I left for Area 4, I'm just kind of going through my mags, just kind of do a little tune on those, and I get this one mag I stick in there, and I just kind of test feed, and it goes juke about halfway, and I'm like,
I just fixed all this.
Really? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, well, that sucks. I grab another bag, boop, straight in. Grab another bag, boop, straight in. And yeah, that mag's in the safe, and I'm mad at it not speaking to it right
That
now.
one's out.
All right, so that wraps it up on my indoor shooting tips and tricks. All right, bleeding off with Joseph and Blake today.
Woohoo.
Area 4. All right, so you said you finished second, Class
Yep.
C.
And a little, I'll brag on myself because I'm not too proud. But the last 4 matches that I've shot, they were all majors, and I got top 3 in my class in all of them. So I'm happy about that.
Solid.
And there was 3 people at each one.
Yeah, at least
More 3.
At least 3.
Okay, good. Well,
I ended up-
that is good.
So once they went through all the scoring and stuff, I actually ended up getting top C at Oklahoma, at the
Very
Oklahoma
cool. Yeah.
sectional.
I saw
So,
that picture you posted. I think.
yeah, so I was happy about that one, and I think I ended up getting second at Area 4, but the guy that won was like 72%, so that's a B class score. So I don't care about him.
There's always sandbaggers.
I don't know if I'll say that. Yes, there is. I don't know if he's won. He's not like Chase Raines level sandbagger.
There's always sandbaggers. That's the thing. Everybody forgets that. We all take this a little too serious some days, but
Right.
it is just a game
Yeah.
for the vast majority of people that shoot this sport.
Well, to me, that's
And playing the game is part of it.
that's how you should move up. I mean, honestly, because if you're getting moved up because you're just shooting a bunch of locals who have a bunch of classifiers,
Mhm.
the first major you go to, you're probably going to get waxed.
And that's what happened to me.
But on the contrary, like what I'm doing, 90% of the matches I shoot are all majors.
Mhm.
And so it takes forever to move up because you have to keep matching the top guys that are at all these matches, which, yeah, if you're getting better and you're still practicing, then that's going to happen. But it is going to take a little bit longer. And so if you're doing both of those, like maybe 1 or 2 locals a month with, a major every month or so, whenever they come around, that seems like it would be the best. But you have all these little small things like, well, maybe this match didn't have a classifier, or they did have one and it got thrown out. Like I had 3 of them that they all got thrown out.
Right.
And so it just takes forever. But if say you're only shooting majors or even locals that just don't have classifiers, if you're getting bumped, that's the best way
I agree.
if you're looking at the percentages to move up, because that's actually what you're doing. Like you're shooting against these top guys like JJ, because there's going to be one of these guys at most majors, like either a Blake or a JJ or a Christian. Maybe not a Christian or a JJ are the best examples because they're going to be 30% over everybody
And that's
else.
what I was going to say. That's the problem with trying to move up at an area match. JJ,
Yeah.
the next guy down was 11% below him.
So you're like on the school board and stuff like that. So with like the testing results, you have this big curve based on like the top 10%.
Exactly.
Yeah, the state test, yes.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
curve from JJ to everybody else
Gets whacked.
was like something like 13%.
Yeah.
I mean, so
So
you have
even if
him,
you,
he's
even,
like,
even if you shot, well, for instance, JJ is 100% in open. Then it was the next 7 guys down were within 5%.
yeah,
So that tells me those 5 guys from number 2 to me
killed
had a
it.
pretty good
They
match.
killed it.
We had a good match. None of us really gave much up. None of us left a whole lot on the floor. And we were all relatively close in the grand scheme of a 1,500 point match.
Yeah.
But then you got JJ up
So
there
there's-
that's going like,
Here's these top 5 guys that
And then-
are like
there's JJ.
super good, and then either JJ or Christian or like Casey is up here, and that's how area matches, that's how major matches are.
Most matches are going to have a big boy at it.
And so
Or
same thing,
several.
like when we left Area 3, Trevor got bumped because he
Mm-hmm.
shot like 92% as an A class, which is insane.
So he moved up to what?
He got bumped up to master.
Okay, cool.
And so, but same thing, because like Chase, he's been B class like for a while, and it's kind of a joke now because he's right there. but he does shoot very well. Like, he should definitely be an A. But if you're getting bumped, that's the only true fire way to know, like,
Well,
that you're ready.
the big joke is if you move up shooting classifiers, a lot of times they say that's a paper GM or whatever. And I know for a fact I was a paper GM for quite a while. When I made GM, I shot at doing classifiers. I didn't do it at a match, and
Well, it's great. I mean, because, yeah, it's a good feeling because, yes, you are getting better, but it may not be that much better between, like, B class and master class.
well, and a classifier, while they test skill, for instance, the LPRES, turn, draw,
Yeah.
shoot 6, reload, shoot 6.
You can
There's
get really good at that.
you can get really good at it, and there's some definite skill in there. I don't want to deter from that, but there's a whole lot more skill in shooting 12 or 14 stages consistently with all the things that go on within a stage versus turn, draw, 6, reload 6.
Yeah. This one kind of isolated.
Yeah.
Skill. Not skill, but this
Skill.
one,
Skill's
this,
good, yeah.
this one thing.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I feel like I'm doing it a good way to where I'm not going to get bumped too quick.
Nope.
And I'm not just going to, like, hang out down here in C class for that long. Because I think I finished at, like, 60, almost 65%. And you get bumped at, like, 70.
Well, you don't get bumped.
Well, B starts at 70. If you're looking at percentages
So if you win your division, you might get bumped if you shot a good percentage. It's so and it kind of I still think that USPSA match bumps are flaky at best because you can win your division and maybe you will, maybe you won't get bumped. If there are it's either 3 or 4 or 5 GMs now at a match, and they all shoot within their appropriate percentages, i.e. 95% or better, because that's an appropriate percentage for a GM.
For a GM.
So let's just say me and JJ and Christian Siler all show up at an area match, and we all 3 shoot it. Not that I'm going to get this close, but we all shot 95% or better. That match for open could be considered a classifier match. So then whatever your percentage is can go in as a percentage,
Right.
as a classifier percentage.
So, like, if I was at that same match, theoretically, and I was 80% of all of y'all.
Now, you may not get bumped.
Right.
It may just go in as a percentage on your classifier, your classifier scores.
But that's definitely going to work towards that.
Correct. Or if you won at 80%, you're probably getting bumped.
Right. Which, I mean, I'm still, if you look at the division, I'm still right in the middle of it. Like, I'm not doing terrible, but I'm not, like, top 5 because all the best guys are all
Right.
open. But I'm still doing okay in the division.
They ever demote anybody?
No.
To move down, it takes a letter from your area or sectional coordinator, and it's not quite an act of Congress, but it's pretty close.
It basically takes, like, the match director or somebody that is involved with the match witnessing you and then, like, recommending, hey, this
For
guy.
instance, good friend of mine out in El Paso, Francis Livingston, he's a GM. He's senior now. He's had 2 knee replacements. He could probably get bumped down to him.
Because it's the same. So what you were talking about of being like a paper GM, it's the same with like PCC guys, who like they'll be a GM in PCC, and I don't know what the rule is verbatim, but if you're a GM in PCC, when you move over to another division,
You can only be 1 level below,
yeah, you're automatically
if-
like a master.
regardless. For instance, I'm a 74% limited M
Mm.
in limited. 74%.
Is that because you're a GM in open?
Correct.
But with PCC, that carries over into any.
If I shot revolver and I classified in revolver,
You'd be
and
a
I can
master.
promise you I'd classify in revolver at 40% probably.
40% master.
I'd be a 40% master.
And so a lot of guys will. I'm not gonna say there's anything wrong with that. If that's what you're doing, then cool. But you can definitely tell which guys are only these high classes because they were really good at PCC before they did that. And so then you may need to be bumped down, or just keep doing it until you're actually at that percentage.
Well, to get bumped down, it's not just a matter of performance. It's a matter to get bumped down. It has to be some sort of you're in a car wreck and you fractured some back. You Francis Livingston, 2 knee replacements, something like that really that kind of permanently affects your performance. That's kind of grounds for moving down.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just almost impossible. It's not because of performance.
Gotcha.
But that was Area 4 it was a good match.
Stages were good. A lot of them
They
had good choices. I don't think the choices made a hill of beans one way or the other.
no, because I ran a lot of them, not backwards, but like so. Saw one guy run it this way. I ran it basically mirrored, just the opposite direction, and the times were pretty similar.
Well, like the one where we started in the chair, got unloaded. You had that kind of little U shape.
Yeah, I went left.
I went left, then I went all the way right, then I went forward and finished up there on the corner on that zebra. I think JJ Racaza went to the front corner first.
Yeah. That's the same thing that I did. So I started left, shot
Left,
the 2 papers.
left forward or left back?
Left forward.
Oh, I didn't look to see how far forward you could go to still have that paper.
It wasn't very far.
Okay.
Like you didn't have to run all the way to the back to be
Gotcha.
able to see them, but you could be like in the middle
Gotcha.
of that alley, and it would.
Because I didn't look. I knew I was going straight across anyway,
Right.
so I just went to the back corner, shot the steel, reloaded on the move across.
I walked it that way, and I don't know. It didn't feel as good as the other one, and so it ended up being not a direct step across. You still had to take like a half step back.
Gotcha.
But that's all it was. You do the paper, walk up on the steel, and then I went straight to that corner where the zebra was. Do that. I think I went into the port, and then as I left the port, I turned on those double stacked, shot those, and then reloaded, and then went to the back right.
What's a zebra?
It's
where you have
the no shoot, not the
it's a-
no
it's a
shoots, but
hardcover.
it's hardcover.
goes right down either side of the A.
The black.
Yeah, the black goes
And
down
so
on right and left side of the A.
What's tuxedo?
same thing.
Yes,
Okay.
same word for the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you hit it, it's not a penalty, but you don't get those points unless you make them up. Because
On the hardcover.
on that short stage, on 13,
hmm
I had already decided that I was going to shoot at that last hardcover 3 times,
Gotcha.
and the RO gave me too much credit because he was like, because I shot that stage really fast, like I was super happy with that stage, and the RO, he was like, man, you threw a mic on that last one, but you must have saw it because you made it up like super fast. I was like, nope, I was gonna shoot it 3 times no matter what. I don't even know which hit it was.
Yep.
Couldn't tell you.
I just saw a dot-ish on a target.
Yep.
Blip.
Because that was a hoser stage,
Yeah.
and so to get I think I had like a 10-4 hit factor or something, but there were guys that were having like 12s and 13s. But to get that, you had to be moving, and so you're not really aiming.
Which you really don't have to on that. I mean, there's really no risk on most. There's no no-shoots, I don't think, on that.
Well, there were 2 hard covers.
Yeah.
There
but
was one in the port and then that one at the end. But because of that, I came in on those laydowns
I did
because
too.
I didn't want to start on the hardcover because
I
I
did too.
knew I'd for sure probably throw one and not see it. And so I started on the laydowns because they were wide open.
Yep.
And so I kind of countered that, but I also ended on the hardcover.
Well, that's what we went back, and that's kind of where we went back and forth on the guys on my squad. You know, do you come in on the zebra first through the port?
Because it
kind of
does
an
fit
odd
into your exit.
It does, but really, how far are you going to exit on 2
Right.
lay-down targets with a port that's now becoming 3 inches wide because I mean, again,
It didn't-
JJ's going to do something
yeah.
like that, but
It didn't
humans,
change my exit that much.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have to reload, so your angle isn't really that big of a deal.
That's one thing that I really, going into that match, my thought process was I don't really care what the plan is. You know, I had some guys on my squad that are newer shooters, and they're like, so what do you think? Do I go here, go here? Like, it doesn't really matter. As long as the start position isn't back here and your first position is as far out of the way as you can go, as long as it's not something like that, pretty much anything else you do, if it's in your head and you don't
Yeah.
get mixed up halfway through, it doesn't make a hill of beans.
And that's always, I'm sure there's a bunch of people that say it, but that's what Trevor always tells me is a bad plan ran perfectly is still better than a good plan ran badly.
Yep.
And so I didn't really have any plans that got blown or anything, and so I was
It's
happy.
always good if we can execute something. It's always good if we can do two things at once. And there's always places to shave off time, but generally speaking, shaving off time is not because it's a half a step closer here, going
Right.
here first.
It's because of how you execute it.
Yeah, I think.
But they weren't hard to stage. I mean, a lot of them you could do them two ways, and it's probably going to be the same time or close to it either way. So it was a lot of good stages.
They're good stages.
Couple
It's
of
a fun match.
Couple
Well-
of funky like one of them you had to start up range, which
Have you looked at North Texas Open? So, now of course, drawing. I've been their range before. Their bays are not as big as it shows on the drawings, but they'll have like a shooting area, like almost like where you have to come way forward on one side and then way up here on the other side, and the start position's way over here outside. It's going to be a technical, big space to cover match, which is kind of a weird
right.
mix.
So what are you doing to get ready for that? Because our next match is nationals, and so I'm basically
Shoot hard targets.
that I'm trying to get my draw faster. Not
No.
that it's
Don't worry about the draw.
slow. It just sometimes it doesn't. Feel
Don't get it
good.
faster, just get it better.
Well, just to where it works with my grip, like basically just reps and reps and reps.
Because like I know
of
people
draw
will do
and
that
grip.
too, and they'll say, "Man, I got to get my draw faster. I get my draw faster." Well, even in Nats, there's 22 stages or something like that. Let's just say 3 or 4 of those are probably going to be an unloaded pickup stage, so the draw's kind of mute.
Right, doesn't matter.
So really, if your draw is 1-5 or 1-2, spread out over 20-something stages, plus the fact that you're probably not drawing directly into a target, you're drawing and moving somewhere.
Mm.
The more important thing is to have a consistent draw, in my humble.
Right. Well, that's all I'm trying to like. If it gets faster, then fine, but I'm still getting some of those to where the grip is off after the draw.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to get that
Strong hand or weak hand off, or both?
weekend is off.
Snap that weekend.
I know, but I know that's what I'm trying to do. But
Don't think about this hand. That's what when my draws get really bad.
yeah, I'm not worried about this hand.
This hand knows what to do. This hand knows to go there. It knows. I very, very, very seldom, when I'm concentrating on it anyway, very seldom do something weird like where I end up on the beaver tail or end up way on low. This hand knows where to go. But if I don't think about this hand, every single draw,
It's
snap,
slow.
snap. This hand's hanging off over here, and then you're rushing to develop that support hand grip, and it pretty well goes downhill.
But I told you before Area 4 that I had been working a lot on movement. And so I actually asked Shane Coley, so Shane is a very good limited shooter. He's the captain of Team Glock.
He's on the Army Marksmanship Unit, good shooter.
Yeah.
Good
But on top of being like an awesome limited shooter, he's doing it with a Glock, which is
Correct.
insane. It's
Yeah.
like Nils doing as well as he does with a freaking Koenig. And
A couple of years ago, Shane Coley won nationals shooting a Glock. Now, granted, I know his Glock is souped up, and
yeah, it's a modified Glock,
but
it's still a
it's
Glock.
still a Glock. Any way you cut the mustard. And the next guy down was Nils at like 92% or something like that. I mean, it was a pretty solid victory.
And he shoots a Koenig, which like
Well, now at the time he was shooting still limited, so he
okay.
had his. I think he's a McLaren,
yeah,
so he still
Right.
he had a full up 2011.
these are guys that are basically using factory equipment and just smoking everybody
Yeah.
with them.
Lots of
But-
skill. We're learning. Lots of skill. We're learning.
So I asked him at Area 3, like, what do you do to work on movement? And he said squats. And so I've been doing a ton of squats. And I could actually see it because that stage at Area 4 where you had to shoot that super low port,
Mhm.
I just dropped it like it was hot. And,
Gosh.
I mean, it felt like I was in, like, a football game or something. But it still felt good. And then I just popped right back up and ran to that back corner and then cleared the right side. But I mean, when you can see and feel like improvements,
Mhm.
it's way better than
Absolutely.
just wondering if you're working on the right things or if you're doing the right drills or stuff like that. And so basically from area 3, even before area 3, I was running a lot, but between area 3 and 4, that's all I did like twice a week was squats and running and these like explosive things. And I could feel the difference. Like usually, because when you shoot all day, it's a long day.
It is a long day.
It feels like an
It does become a marathon, not a
like an
sprint.
all night like softball tournament or like a baseball tournament. It just wears you down.
Well, the thing you have to think, it's we started at 8, we got done at 4, rough numbers, and it's not like you just shot 12 stages. You
Right.
shoot 12 stages, but you go down and walk the stages prior to shooting. So you walk the stages.
So you're
3 or 4
moving the
times.
whole time. Like you don't really sit down.
And then you got to go back and reset for every shooter.
Yeah.
So you really walk it each stage realistically 15 or 20 times.
Yeah.
Times 12,
Plus,
14, whatever it was.
so I don't eat lunch on days that I'm shooting. I'll just kind of snack all day, like fruit snacks and
Yeah.
like granola bars and stuff. And so it just, you're wore out.
It is. It's a long day.
But I could tell, so I didn't hit that wall until there was only like 1 or 2 stages left to where you're like, man, I'm tired. But at area 3, I hit that at like with 6 stages left,
Wow.
like halfway through. And it was kind of like, man, I can't wait for this to be over.
So I done a little bit different this time. Usually I'll try to eat something like a steak and some veg, something kind of high protein and nice and healthy. And this time I actually had a big fat pizza. So I kind of carb loaded the day
Yeah,
before.
that's what me and Steve did. We went to Olive Garden, and I had this big giant thing of pasta, just carb loaded.
So did
Yeah.
it work, Blake?
I didn't hit a wall at all. I felt good all day. Now I started off rough, just sketchy because I didn't know what my performance was going to be. But my improvement through the day just got better and better and better and better and better. And I never did hit the wall. I could have shot 2 or 3 more stages pretty easily at the end of the day. I felt good. But I ate grapes and I ate nuts. And I had a very light little lunch, some deli meat and some cheese.
So you ate grapes and nuts during the competition?
Yeah, I always carry. I pack like a girl. I know that. I admit it. So I have a little bag I call my support bag that gets my ammo. It gets just assorted things I may need, knee brace maybe or something like that throughout the day, and I keep nuts and grapes in there. And
Okay.
every couple of stages, pop a cup. Pedialyte. Ooh, I'm becoming a big fan of Pedialyte. Yeah, that's that's a miracle worker right there.
Yeah, I drank a bunch of water.
Yeah.
That day.
All right, good deal. So Joseph's training there. You've got a match coming up this weekend.
North Texas Open.
You're doing that. Is that your only match between now and nationals?
I'm not going to shoot nationals. So
Oh,
this,
you're
this
not?
is this is about my last match for the year, probably.
So that's just this upcoming weekend.
Correct.
What are you doing before that to get ready? Just shooting?
It's such a fast turnaround from Area 4 to this. I'm not. I got me and I had.
I mean, you're pretty well warmed up for it.
You never know.
Right.
You just. I'm.
Well, I mean, everybody, because there's a ton of guys who, like, were at Area 4 who were only shooting the Texas Open or the North Texas Open because that's the last match before Nationals.
Yeah.
And same thing probably with a lot of these local matches. They're only going to do that as, like, a warm-up.
Yeah. And that's
before.
kind of what they're building this
Right.
match for. That's why it's a very technical match. Is it's kind of theoretically a warm up for nationals.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing anything specific. I know today when I get back home, I'll make sure guns are running. I'll make sure I'm going through my ammo. I've got a process on my ammo I do once it's kind of ready to shined up and patted on the little button, spoken nicely to, and make sure guns are clean, make sure guns are zeroed, double check chrono.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to practice some real basic stuff, couple of targets, piece of steel, some strong hand, some weekend. We do have one class fire that's a strong hand weekend for the North Texas Open, so just simple stuff.
That's one thing that I avoid a lot. Weekend. I've just kind of gotten lucky that nobody's had a weekend stage here lately.
It's like everything. It's a technique,
Right.
and a buddy of mine, he's got big old mitts, and so he's converted his ambi safety to a single-sided safety. So he called me this morning on the drive over here. He was like, "Dude, I'm having a problem." He said every time I'm either when I draw, throw the safety, transfer over, and then my index finger bumps the safety up.
Yeah.
Or I have to throw it because I don't have an ambi, so I can't throw it with my left thumb. So I'm throwing it and then trying to keep my hand lower that I'm almost holding on to the. It's like, well, that's kind of challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him a couple of maybe try this, but
Yeah, that one bull gun that we have, the safety does not match my grip. I don't know if I just have a high grip or whatever, but I have to actually put it over the safety to hold it down so that I don't push it back up. On that STI, my grip sits under the safety. So even yeah. So after I clear the safety, my grip is still below it.
He don't believe you.
But on the bull, it has to be above it.
it's curved like your thumb for a reason.
I know, but it's like I push it down and then it sits right underneath it.
My thumb sits right on top of that safety.
But I have little girl hands.
All right, good deal. Remember to look at 415 training and get some tips and tricks. I'm sure Blake would be glad to work with you out at his range and help you improve your speed.
I did improve my range though.
Oh, good. What'd you do?
I had one big bay, and then the new bay with the big industrial tires, and the county brought me a whole bunch of fill dirt, so I actually have 3 real bays now with actual dirt berms, and 2 of them are about 18 or 20 yards deep, maybe a little deeper than that, pretty deep. So, and
Good deal. We'll have to get out there and see that
Yeah.
and do some training with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining us today, Blake. All right. That wraps up the show number 17. We'll be back in a couple weeks with episode 18, where Joseph and I are going to go over the new whole shot arms tuners for your rimfire guns. And Joseph's going to go over testing at the customer range. We did last time testing on your own. All right. And he's going to talk about testing at the Ely customer range here in Texas. Please be sure and subscribe to the podcast and tell all of your shooting friends. And until next time, we'll see you at the range.